After 6 years of Ghibelline rule, a climate of uncertainty reigned in Florence. The Ghibellines held power, flanked by magnates and merchants willing to collaborate. Yet the city itself never played too active part in the fighting, simply providing the promised resources. By late 1265, the signs of instability had grown more evident. Pope Urban IV increased his pressure on the mercantile classes that supported Ghibelline rule in the city, aiming to isolate those loyal to King Manfred. Meanwhile, the Ghibelline League itself was struggling. Pisa refused to push Lucca too hard, Siena was focused on keeping tight control of the League, and Florence was beset by internal rifts, with part of the merchant classes wary of pouring out funds. A great comet crossed the sky the previous year, foretolding diverse and momentous changes. On this occasion, the astrologers were on the mark. Great changes were about to arrive, bringing an end to a chain of intricate events that in the meantime had been unfolding much further south. Today, we shall journey back in time and space to the sun-drenched lands of southern Italy and Sicily, the flourishing yet fragile kingdom of King Manfred, the central figure of this episode and the next. The Kingdom of Sicily, a fertile, ancient, and rugged land like its citrus fruits. Its millennial history is a fascinating journey through conquests, politics, and culture. The period which interests us begins at the end of the Arab Emirate, when the Normans established the Grand County of Sicily and introduced the feudal system. Their dominion expanded to Malta and Calabria, and its kings consolidated their power with continuous territorial and political expansion, laying the foundation of what would become one of the largest states in Europe, a melting pot of cultures and a center of power in the Mediterranean. A period of particular brilliance began under Frederick II of Swabia. He was the Stupor Mundi we spoke of in previous episodes, an enlightened sovereign, later emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. He was a patron of the arts and sciences and promoter of an advanced legal culture. He founded the Sicilian School of Poetry and promoted the constitutions of Melfi. But his reign was also marked by violent conflicts with the papacy and the Italian city-states. At the height of his power, he loved a Sicilian noblewoman, Biancalancia, and from their union was born Manfred. Manfred was likely born in the year 1232, an illegitimate child later acknowledged and legitimized by his father, Emperor Frederick II, probably around 1248, through a deathbed marriage, in articulo mortis, to Biancalancia. His name evoked the memory of his great-grandfather, Manfred I, and his uncle, Manfred II, clearly underscoring his close ties to his mother's powerful Piedmontese family, the Lancia. Though we have little precise knowledge of his upbringing, an anonymous 13th century chronicler tells us that Manfred was educated and brought up at his father's cultured court. This claim is conferred by Manfred himself, who recalls, in the preface of his translation of the pseudo-Aristotelian treatise De Pomo, the exceptional education he received at the imperial court in philosophy, natural sciences, theology, and liberal arts. In 1247, not yet 15 years old, Manfred was selected by Frederick II to undertake a crucial diplomatic mission. On the 21st of April, he was officially betrothed to Beatrice of Savoy, daughter of Count Amadeus IV, in order to secure the alliance between the Empire and the House of Savoy. Little else is known about their marriage aside from the birth of their daughter Constance, who would later marry King Peter III of Aragon. 3 years later, on 13th December 1250, we find Manfred at his father's bedside, witnessing Frederick's final agony from severe abdominal pains. Upon Frederick's death, the Kingdom of Sicily quickly descended into chaos. At just 18 years old, Manfred found himself entrusted with governing the entire realm as Baeulus, regent, on behalf of his elder half-brother Conrad IV, who was still in Germany. Frederick's last testament guided Manfred, whose first official act was to inform Conrad of their father's death, reaffirming his loyalty and urging him to swiftly claim his throne. But history had other plans, and the political situation deteriorated rapidly. The astute Pope Innocent IV seized upon the death of the excommunicated Emperor Frederick II to claim the Kingdom of Sicily as a vacant fiefdom under papal authority. Beginning in January 1251, the Pope encouraged the cities of southern Italy to rise against Swabian rule, promising them extensive self-governing privileges modeled on the comuni of central Italy. Initially, the Pope attempted a peace negotiation with Manfred, but it failed due to mutual inflexibility. On the 13th December 1251, Innocent IV renewed his call for rebellion against Manfred. By 1251, the Kingdom of Sicily was in open rebellion, with several of its cities yearning for political autonomy similar to the comuni of northern and central Italy. With limited forces at his disposal, Manfred initially chose to temporarily abandon the terra di lavoro, roughly corresponding to modern-day Campania, to consolidate his strength in Apulia. He personally led decisive military operations against the insurgent cities, but despite some notable successes, he failed to subdue the rebellions in Capua and Naples, which stubbornly resisted his assaults. In January 1252, Manfred's half-brother Conrad IV finally landed in Italy and was warmly welcomed by Manfred at Siponto. Yet the initial harmony between the two half-brothers was short-lived. By February of that same year, Conrad convened a diet at Foggia, passing new laws designed to restore the ancient Norman Swabian privileges, aiming to pacify his subjects and strengthen his own authority. Throughout the year, Conrad progressively curtailed the ambitious Manfred's independence, revoking several territorial privileges granted to him by their father, and steadily reducing his political autonomy. Concurrently, Conrad embarked on a ruthless campaign to reconquer the terra di lavoro, brutally suppressing revolts such as that in Sessa Aurunca, where 48 captured nobles were sentenced to death by hanging. The relationship between Conrad and Manfred deteriorated further in 1253, when Conrad openly clashed with Manfred's maternal relatives, the Lancia family, seizing many of their estates in Piedmont. The escalating mistrust surrounding Manfred and his family culminated with the mysterious death of Henry Carlotto, Conrad's younger brother, at Melfi in December of that year. Although some chronicles accuse Conrad of orchestrating the murder to remove potential rivals, the facts remain uncertain. Still, rumors spread rapidly, preserved vividly in the words of an anonymous Genoese chronicler. Thus, Conrad summoned his brother Henry from the island of Sicily. Henry was, in fact, strangled, for he dared neither eat nor drink. It is said Giovanni Moro strangled him at the behest of the king himself. Thus, all the emperor's legitimate sons, save for the king, Conrad himself, vanished. Conrad IV, now openly at odds with Pope Innocent IV, who had excommunicated him on the 9th of April 1254, planned a major military campaign against the Papal States and their allies. But on the 21st of May 1254, he died suddenly, near Melfi, likely from a resurgence of malaria previously contracted. Predictably, rumors quickly spread, suggesting Manfred might have played a role in his half-brother's untimely death, attributing it to either a poisoned enema or a medication containing diamond power that tore his intestines. These accusations were never substantiated and likely emerged from papal propaganda, and the climate of suspicion fostered by past family intrigues. But the truth scarcely mattered, because from that moment on, Manfred would always bear the stigma of fratricide. Conrad IV's sudden demise plunged the Kingdom of Sicily into another dangerous power vacuum. Conrad's legitimate son and sole heir, Conradin, was just 2 years old, living far away in Germany under the guardianship of his mother Elizabeth and his uncle Louis II of Bavaria. Manfred once again assumed the role of regent, this time under significantly harsher circumstances, lacking clear legitimacy and facing rising hostility both internally and externally, chiefly embodied by Pope Innocent IV. Initial negotiations between Manfred and the papal court to seek a political compromise quickly failed. In August 1254, informed that the Pope refused to guarantee Conrad's succession and was preparing military intervention, Manfred wrote urgently to his Lombard ally Orberto Pellavicino, imploring him to block the passage of Transalpine troops through northern Italy. The papal response was swift. On the 12th of September 1254, Innocent IV formally excommunicated Manfred and principal Hohenstaufen supporters in the kingdom. The following month, on the 18th of October 1254, violent clashes erupted at Teano in Campania between the papal forces led by Borrello d'Anglona and Manfred's troops, culminating in a second decisive engagement near Foggia on the 2nd of December. Here, Manfred achieved a resounding military victory against the army of Marquis Otto of Hohenburg, thanks mainly to the Saracen archers of Lucera, elite troops originally established by his late father, Frederick II. Manfred himself vividly described the battle in a letter addressed to the kingdom's nobility. Having shattered the enemy's resistance with the sword, killing a great many and capturing even more, we forced our way into the city of Foggia with violence and bloodshed. There followed a terrible massacre of men and the ruthless exterminations of rebels, whose chief was Marquis Otto of Hohenburg himself. Time also ran its course for Pope Innocent IV, who died in Naples on the 7th of December 1254. When a pope dies, another is soon made, as the saying goes, and his successor, Alexander IV, born Rainaldo of the Lords of Gênes, was elected on the 20th of that very month, Although already 56, he was an energetic man, trained at the University of Paris and hardened by more than 30 years of relentless clerical politics. No sooner was he enthroned than he adopted an even more uncompromising stance towards Manfred, proclaiming a crusade against him and offering the Sicilian crown to Prince Edmund of England. After one final extreme attempt at an understanding had failed, Manfred chose an openly anti-papal path, abandoning for good any hope of reconciliation with Rome. And so we reach the end of the first part of our journey through the life of Manfred of Swabia. We have retraced his early steps, from the cultivated court of his father Frederick II to the delicate political and military balances that shaped his youth. Amid intrigue, exile, whispered betrayals, and bloody battles, Manfred managed to hold on power in a realm increasingly divided and hostile, until he chose to break openly with the Church. In the next episode, we'll see the young ruler make one final move to consolidate his dominion, his coronation as King of Sicily, with all the political and diplomatic consequences it entailed. But, as we shall discover, this bold step came at a steep price. Perhaps too steep for the son of the Stupor Mundi.